Today I'm looking at the Canon Powershot G9x Mk. And while at first glance the G9X does look like any ordinary point-and-shoot camera, it does pack a pleasant surprise. It comes equipped with a 1-inch sensor that's about twice the size of a sensor on a regular point-and-shoot, and should theoretically allow it to perform much better than most point-and-shoot cameras. We'll be testing that image quality in a minute. Another remarkable thing about the G9x Mk is its compactness. It measures just under 4 inches in length by about 2 inches in width by about 1.5 inches thick and weighs in at an impressively light 206 grams. And just to give you a sense of how compact it is, here it is next to my iPhone 8, the Canon SX740 and the mirrorless Canon EOS M100. Later in this video, I'll be comparing all these cameras in more detail with the Canon G9x Mk to see if it's actually worth its price tag. Now, despite the fact that it's compact and light, it seems pretty well constructed and is really easy to hold and use, especially with just one hand. Most of that compactness was achieved at the expense of its retractable 3x zoom lens. Yes, you heard that right. 3x optical zoom. So it really has very little zoom. This isn't such a bad thing if you're taking portraits, pictures of your family, or even for discreet street photography. But if you're planning to zoom in on things that are really far away, say while on vacation, this is definitely not the camera for the job. The buttons are fairly well laid out, with the only exception being the playback button, which now resides on top of the camera. It's a minor gripe, but I would have much preferred to have the movie record button switch places with the playback button. However, I really like this knurled mode dial on top, which makes it really easy to switch shooting modes. It also pretty stealthily sneaks in this useful pop-up flash on the top of the camera. Another thing I love about it is the quality of the 3-inch display, which is also a touchscreen. The screen performs very well both indoors and outdoors, and having the touchscreen makes it really easy to navigate menus and options, especially if your last camera was a smartphone. What I don't like about the screen though is the fact that it doesn't tilt or flip up for selfies and vlogs. Come on, Canon, this is 2018. Most people buying these cameras want to take selfies or shoot vlogs. Having that flip screen would have made it a terrific beginner vlogging camera. It does, however, come with a micro HDMI port and a micro USB port on the side. And while you can charge the battery in the camera using the provided micro USB cable, I love that it comes with a standalone battery charger. Talking about batteries, it uses a NB13L, which lives in this compartment on the bottom, along with the SD card. And as with every camera that shoots HD video, I recommend investing in a fast enough SD card. I'll leave a link to one I recommend right below the video, so feel free to check that out. The G9x Mk is also equipped with Wi-Fi, so you can connect it to your smartphone or tablet and download images to your device from the G9X. Great if you want to quickly share these images on social media. The Canon Camera Connect app also allows you to remotely control the zoom and focus, and of course lets you take pictures. The Wi-Fi connection and app worked almost flawlessly. The big question though is, how did it perform? In typical Canon fashion, it took some absolutely gorgeous 20 megapixel JPEG images that were very well exposed, sharp, had a really pleasing color reproduction, and most importantly, produced a nice shallow depth of field, thanks to its larger sensor. And in case you're wondering what shallow depth of field is, it's that nice soft blurry background you get in photos taken with more professional cameras. The larger sensor also helped with low light photography, as you can see from these shots, where I didn't even turn the flash on. The 1080p video, on the other hand, wasn't as impressive. The camera shoots 1080p at 24, 30, and 60 fps. I chose the 24 fps mode and found that the video was very soft and lacked the sharpness expected even from cameras or phones that shoot 1080p. Though the colors were well reproduced and the exposure was metered well, the lack of a sharp image was a major disappointment. So while it does take great photos, is it worth upgrading from a phone and point and shoot? Or should you just upgrade instead to a compact mirrorless camera? To test this out, I used my studio lighting and tested these cameras against each other. The first device it went up against was my trusty iPhone 8, which has a really good camera. As you can see from these test shots, the iPhone produced surprisingly better looking images. Despite a smaller sensor and fewer megapixels, the iPhone consistently produced better results. The only area where the Canon performed better was in terms of a shallower depth of field, as you can see from the writing on the bottle in the background. Even in low light conditions, the iPhone surprisingly seemed to eke out better pictures. When pitted against the Canon SX740, the results were very different. The G9X performed much better on every count. The colors were more natural, the picture was better exposed, and the low light performance was much better. And as expected, thanks to a larger sensor, the G9X produced a shallower depth of field. Another strong competitor is the popular Canon EOS M100 mirrorless camera, which I reviewed last year. That camera has a larger sensor than the G9X Mk, and rather unsurprisingly, it beat the G9X on almost every test. The photos were better exposed, the color reproduction was more pleasing, the low light performance was impressive, and the depth of field was even shallower than the G9X. So you're now probably wondering, is the G9X Mk worth the money? Well, that really depends on what you plan to use it for. If you need a very compact camera to take pictures of your family or a discreet camera for street photography, the G9X Mk could be worth the price. However, if you already have a good smartphone camera like my iPhone 8, the G9X is really not worth the upgrade. If you're coming from an entry-level point-and-shoot though, like the Canon SX740, the G9X is definitely a good upgrade. If you do eventually decide to buy one though, I really don't recommend paying the list price. This camera is being heavily discounted, so I suggest waiting for those discounts to show up. I'll leave a link to the Canon G9X on Amazon, which usually has the lowest prices in case you're looking to buy one. On the other hand, this is certainly not a good option if you need a vlogging camera or a travel zoom camera for video. If you need a camera for either of those things, I recommend getting the Panasonic ZS70, which should work really well as a vlogging camera or as a travel zoom for video. And finally, if you're looking to get the absolute best quality and are looking to dip your toes into the world of photography, I recommend the Canon EOS M100. The larger sensor and ability to swap out lenses really helps you grow. I'll leave links to all the cameras I tested and the cameras I recommend right below the video. I also have separate reviews of the Canon SX740HS and the Canon EOS M100. So feel free to check out those videos as well. Also, if you own one of these cameras, please share your experience in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Hope this video was useful. If it was, please hit that like button and subscribe for more reviews, unboxings, and how-to videos. Thanks for watching and see you next time.